2nd.
When's the deadline for that?
I need to know tomorrow morning.
And
Who's
how
going?
many days is that? One
It's
day?
2 days,
You're going
but you
to
don't
that,
have to
right?
go both days.
Yeah.
The first day seems a little heavier
days?
on the environmental stuff.
Uh-huh.
The second day a little heavier on housing and stuff like that
Where is that held?
at the Waquasit.
Good AC there.
And then
Breakfast and
there's
lunch is
different,
served.
Lectures and whatnot.
Breakfast and
going
lunch
through
are
the
served.
Whole day.
That's what's
Choose
going
what you want.
Yep, they give you breakfast and lunch.
So one thing that's happening there is that this
Yeah, the
new
Tuesday.
thing that APCC and the Cape Cod Commission are starting up, which they're calling the Cape Cod Ponds Network, where they're trying to bring freshwater quality back to a point of open discussion and consideration. They had a meeting which I attended in June, I think. And the second meeting is one of the sessions on Tuesday, like
Yeah, so
Tuesday
that's the draw
afternoon.
for Tuesday.
I don't know why they did it on, so Tuesday is the business day as opposed, or the economy day.
As opposed to the environmental day mostly. I
They
think
probably,
they're trying to draw people on both days, so, cause you can pay money.
I see.
That's what my thought is, that's what they've done, and I've done this in the past. But Monday is the more heavily environmental day, climate change, adaptation stuff, and then Tuesday, with the exception of the water quality, is more business. You can go to either, they're both, I mean, what's nice is it's specifically directed at Cape Cod. You don't have to go, but we will pay for you if you do. I know Ernie and John are gonna go. Me and Melissa are gonna split days.
Yeah, I think I'll go.
Alright, ready when you are.
Alright,
You'll sign me up.
do you want both days or one day?
One day, I think.
Do you want the more environmental day?
Probably the other end, the business end.
Alright, I'll sign you up for Tuesday.
For Tuesday.
Whenever you are ready, Ernie.
All right, it's called to order the meeting of the Harwich Conservation Commission for Wednesday, July 20th, 2022. This meeting is hybrid, both in person, and also we have a number of individuals on the, that are online that'll be participating as well. Fairly small agenda this evening. The first item that we have is a request for determination of applicability for 45 Neal Road, map 16, parcel N1-41. This is a continuance from prior meetings for the proposed addition, pool house, and hardscape.
Good evening. For the
we
record,
have a
Sean Riley,
proponent for this?
Coastal Engineering. Can you hear me all right?
Fine. Sean Riley, we can't hear.
Yes, can you hear me?
Give us a minute, Sean.
Okay.
Do you need them to do anything?
I'm trying to think. Try it now.
Sean or Jen, can you try speaking?
Here's something.
Sean, can you hear us? He can't hear us.
Try it now. Can you hear me now?
Sean or Jen, can you hear us?
Perhaps they can dial in on phone.
They can't even hear us for us to instruct them to do that. I mean, Matt can type a message to them, but we can hear them. Do you need the login credentials, like the password to run this meeting, or no?
No, it should be all set, but.
What's the communications mic? Is that-
Try it now.
Jen or Sean, can you hear us? Nope. Can you type to them, please, and have them call in?
Do they have the number?
It's on the agenda, but maybe if you could, do you have the agenda there, if you could
Yeah.
type it in for them?
He's looking for the number, Sean, and he's giving you signals that call, he can hear.
You can hear us? All right, try to speak, Sean.
Can you hear me?
Yay!
Yeah, we got you. Good. Terrific.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay, the floor is yours.
All right. Yeah, we just finished Wellfleet. We couldn't get on them. They had an issue with Zoom. They had to cancel and postpone that meeting. So I was
Oh, that
hoping I didn't go
stinks.
2 for 2 on. All right. So Sean Riley, Coastal Engineering, representing the applicant, 45 Neal Road. With me tonight is Jennifer Crawford from Crawford Land Management. The last time we were here, we had just a couple of items to clean up, and the commission, Amy had recommended a 1-to-1 mitigation for the proposed site coverage. We have just over 3,600 square feet of site coverage. So CLM has provided 3,630 square feet of mitigation. We've added the 50 and 100-foot buffer zones to both the site plan and the mitigation planting plan. And there was also a question about slope stability and how are we going to manage the slope. It is only a 3-to-1 slope, but if you have any questions about the mitigation plantings, the overall project, or slope stability, we'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Sean, I'm sorry, Amy, do you have questions, comments?
At the meeting last time, I had recommended the 1-to-1 because though technically it is a coastal bank where we would have required more, it's not your typical coastal bank and doesn't perform the typical coastal bank functions. It is mainly for flood purposes. And so in that regards, instead of requiring nothing for a flood or more for a coastal bank, I suggested a 1-to-1. And that, thank you, is if the hardscape is 3,600, you're providing 3,630 square feet of mitigation plantings in an area that is, I can't remember what type of grass is out there right now, but it's pretty much a monoculture. So this will certainly provide a lot of diversity. The planting plan is a good plan for this area. It will provide a mix of, grasses and herbaceous, as well as small to medium shrubs and even small trees, which the area lacks right now. So in terms of habitat, this will provide better in that regards, and should stabilize that 3-to-1 slope, preventing additional runoff into kind of that hole or to the neighbor's property. So I would recommend approval of the project and the granting of the variance for work in the 0 to 50. My only additional, in regards to the conditions that I would suggest for this project, in addition to all our typical conditions about no fertilizers, chemicals, stuff like that, and runoff, you know, drainage, to make sure there's drainage from the pool house and the patio, make sure everything goes in the ground. My only other condition would be that the property line should get staked out, or the corners at least ahead of time. There was concern from the neighbor about, you know, when you do this much grade change, that there might be potential impacts there. So we don't have a limit of work on this plan. Oh, you do, I'm sorry.
We do,
It
we
hugs
do.
the property line for the most part, except in that northeast corner. But I'd like at least the northeast and southeast property corners, I think, should be staked out prior to work start, to make sure they don't go over the line there. So I have no further comment.
Okay, good, thank you. Comments from the commissioners? Start with Wayne. Any comments?
No, I do not.
Okay. Alan?
No comment.
Jim?
No comments.
John?
I have a question, which is about the stated impact area and the contours changes and fill in the area, and you show in gray what you're saying is the mitigation area of 3,630 square feet, but clearly there's fill going in beyond that area. The grade is changing out to the limit of work. So I guess my question is, what about that area where you're changing the grade? Isn't that an impacted area as well? Isn't the total area that you're doing work and changing the grade, isn't that what we should be matching 1-to-1 to?
That's a great answer. So let me just
That's a question, but okay.
show you. So right now it's the, what is it, the, Ken, what's the name of the grass that's out there?
So currently that whole slope has weeping love grass on it, which is actually a grass native to Africa, South Africa, one or the other.
So within those areas, we can put the, we can also add that wildflower mix along the remainder of that slope. Right now it is that, the love grass, but within this
call out-
area.
Sean, we call out for an all fescue mix for all the areas outside of
Oh, there you go.
the gray shaded area, and we have a custom seed mix with grasses native to Barnstable County in the gray shaded mitigation area.
Oh, look at you, you're
And
already
both of them are shown on the plan.
So that would be the area, let me just, to highlight that, that would basically be this area that's graded out, would be all that mix that Jen.
The second mix. Yep.
Correct, would be all in this area here, which there's a note.
Okay, so,
And this both seed mixes are off to the right of the screen that Sean has.
I'm sorry, what was the last thing you said?
Both seed mixes are shown off to the right, where Sean is
Oh, in the
pointed to.
table, you mean?
Right underneath the table.
Yep, right under the table, yep.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I'm still puzzling over the site plan and the grade contours that are shown on the site plan. And the top of I take it that the new grade is the solid line and the existing grade is the dashed line, is that correct?
That is correct. So these contours, if you're referring to these areas, so these are all the proposed contours right down to the limit of work in this area that comes up. So all of the gray area is the mitigation plantings that are going within the recontoured slope. And then this area up above that, that is being recontoured is gonna be covered with this, colonial seed mix, which is the wavy hair grass, the sheep fescue, the blue fescue, and also the hard fescue.
I think I know.
So
what
that'll
you're
be,
asking.
that'll essentially be a no-mow area.
Try to clarify.
If you would prefer the other mix that we're using in the mitigation area to go there, that's not a problem at all and a very easy change.
So that's not what I'm asking about. I'm asking about the new and existing grades that are shown on the plan. The uphill limit of the new grade is 14 feet. But you go west of that and you see existing grades that go down to like 7 or 8 feet. Clearly, that's not what's happening there. This whole new proposed pool house and proposed pool, there's no fill shown there that I, at least as far as I can read this plan. So this plan says you're building the grade up to 14 feet, and then you're leaving the grade to the west of it the way it is. I can't imagine that's really what's gonna happen there. That wouldn't make any, it wouldn't even work. You don't have a wall on the western side there. What is really happening here? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay, so this 14 contour
Uh-huh,
that comes around,
yeah,
so this is elevation 14, everything goes down slope from there, and everything between the 14 and the house, the elevation goes from 14 up to 15 in this area here. So this is all filled in this area here.
I
Well,
think
that's-
what's confusing is that you still have the hatched lines for the existing grades back there, Sean, on
don't
there.
show the new grade at all.
The new grade is this 14 contour. I guess I'm not,
But then you still have a contour line that says 10 on the south side of the proposed retaining wall. And then
okay.
the lighter shaded lines lead me to believe that the grade is going back down.
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so, yeah, I see.
So,
So essentially, this corner in here
You're saying
It's
it's gonna be
elevation.
flat though,
is elevation 14 on the top of the wall.
that you're
right
carrying
here.
that out up towards the house.
So this 14 is coming around. You're just not seeing it in this. So this is all at elevation 14. All this up in here is elevation 14, 14 and a half. And then up at the house is elevation 16 in here. So you've got a slope from the 16 to the 14. We're not changing the 16 contour up in here. I guess we could have clarified and showed the 16 contour as a proposed contour.
Or the proposed elevation of the pool, something to show that it's
Yes.
not going back down.
but,
Yes,
so what I'm getting at is you're filling a lot more than what's shown in this grade area. You're filling everything from the flood zone line here to the property line, and you're filling stuff beyond that up to 14 feet, right? So
that
if
is
we-
correct.
If we take the existing 14-foot grade here, it's all
Yes.
fill from that existing 14-foot grade up to the new 14-foot grade.
That is correct. So this is the existing 14-foot grade here.
So what would be, I'm asking my fellow commissioners and Amy, what would be the appropriate one-to-one compensation for that? That's my question. I mean, this is based on just this grade area, gray-colored area here, right? The
We
3,000,
require, so the way our regulations, this was a little strange, because again, it's coastal bank, but yet acts more like just flood zone here.
uh-huh,
You would typically, if it was strictly coastal bank and actually functioning coastal bank, it's 4-to-1 mitigation to structure. It's not mitigation to project
so,
area. So with a 1-to-1, it was if I was incorrect in assuming this, I apologize.
I don't know, I'm just,
I gave the 1-to-1 for new structure in the zone to mitigation,
so that area is the proposed pool house, the proposed patio, and the
the
proposed pool.
hardscape,
That is all 36, whatever it is.
36.
That is correct. Sorry for the
But
confusion.
if we wanna, you know, in the future kind of clarify that because the project area can be much bigger.
Well, my request would simply be that a clarified site plan be submitted, you know, given whatever is agreed on here, because it's very unclear. This is not something anyone would build to because it doesn't make any sense.
Yes, that's not a problem. We can add a number of spot grades and
Okay, thank
it's
you.
not clear. Unfortunately, we're not we're just representing the applicant. It's kind of a very unusual one where we didn't create the site plan. So you see on the site plan, there are spot grades, elevation 15, 15, 14.
Right.
So those are the proposed spot grades for the project. So
I see, okay.
they're on there. I guess they're just not on the mitigation planting plan.
That's, yeah.
No.
I'm not either. I'm not looking at the right.
So they
Okay.
match.
Yeah, up to the 14 feet, and then it doesn't explain what's happening.
Well, he's saying these.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah.
There's spot grades on there.
All right, okay, thank you. All right. Whack me upside the head. Do I need to remind you?
Mark,
I'll take
John,
a-
is that covered for you?
That covers it, thank you.
Okay, Mark.
Quick question. Retaining wall, what's the height of that wall gonna be exposed on the, I guess it's gonna be on the south side,
6 feet.
okay?
Yep.
No specifics of what it is, poured concrete?
I would just assume poured concrete. There'd probably be a veneer.
Yep, okay. No
And
questions?
that's 6
thank
feet
you.
at the highest point. Obviously, it would taper up to
Right.
0.
That's the only question I had, thank you.
And that pretty much covers any questions I had. Let me ask if there's any other participants in the audience that had any questions on this proposal? All right, hearing none, can we have a motion on this, please? Now, are you comfortable, John, with the documentation?
Yeah,
We're good,
I'm
okay. Can we have a motion on this, please?
Yeah, sure. I'll move that we approve the request for determination of applicability for the project located at 45 Neal Road, map 16, parcel N1-41, and that we also, subject to mitigation on a 1-by-1 level. Also, that we approve a variance to the 50-foot no disturb zone.
Okay, thank you.
I'll
Any
second.
comments? Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we're good, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next two items on the agenda are notice of intent. The first one is for 14 Mill Point Road, map 1, parcel J1-94. Amy?
They would like a continuance to August 3rd.
Okay, all right, thank you. Can we have a motion for that, please?
Sure. I'll move that we continue the hearing for the notice of intent for 14 Mill Point Road, map 1, parcel J1-94, to our meeting of August 3rd, 2022.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item, notice of intent for Colebrook Preserve, map 23, parcel C3-2, C1-0, and C1-1 for ecological restoration. Amy?
They'd like a continuation to August 3rd.
All right, thank you. May we have a motion on that, please?
Sure. I'll move that we continue the hearing for the notice of intent for Colebrook Preservation, map 23, parcels C3-2, C1-0, and C1-1 to our meeting of August 3rd, 2022.
Question?
Yes.
Were we able to pass on the thought of a presentation through drone footage to,
They've done a drone flight for us, and it will
Did
be
they?
at the next meeting.
wonderful, thank you.
And we did encourage them to also try to do a little bit more public outreach. But that's on the owners.
Perfect. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Question for you on this. Now, at the next meeting, Amy, at the last meeting, we had an issue with quorum.
We need to make sure that we don't at the next meeting, so.
And that was primarily because of the number of attendees at the walkthrough that they had there, if I remember correctly. Or that was on the, I'm sorry, that was the minutes for that
Yeah.
particular section.
That was fine.
Okay,
Two members of the commission will have to abstain from, so we
Right.
need to make sure we have at least 4 other commissioners who can participate.
all right, good, thank you.
So if you know you can't be here at the next meeting, let me know ASAP.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a discussion and possible vote for 2 Harvest Hollow, an unpermitted fence.
They have requested a continuance to August 3rd. My only recommendation would be that they were supposed to appear at the last meeting and didn't, and now they've asked for another delay. So if they don't attend August 3rd, I would recommend that we issue an enforcement order for the removal of the fence.
All right, fine, thank you.
Just to kind of put a little pressure on it, that's all.
All right, thank you.
You don't need to vote for that because it's just a discussion item, so you don't need to vote to continue that.
All right.
Just put it on the 3rd.
And then following that, we have a discussion and possible vote for 7 Laurie Lane, unpermitted replacement of a retaining wall and removal of vegetation.
So, the owner of the property is online. I'll just briefly go over what we observed and then give Mr. Steiger a chance to chat and the commission a chance to give Mr. Steiger some direction. So last year, the owners, the Steigers, came to the commission for a request for determination of applicability to renovate a deck and to remove a tree. The owner was present at the meeting. I had asked if the retaining wall and stairs would be repaired. It was said not at that time. I had explained that if those additional items were to be done, they would need approval, especially as one of the walls is in the 50-foot no disturb zone. The wetland is technically across the street from Laurie Lane. And then, so the commission went out to the staff, Melissa, the assistant agent, went out the other day to the property, actually to look at across the street, because we got a request for the town to do a little bit of cutting for hazardous limbs and stuff on our property, which is across the street, and noticed some work that had been done on this property, and instructed the contractor, which is J.J. Miller Stonework and Landscaping, to stop the work and install a silt fence along the road. Retaining walls have been built, one right along the road and one kind of by the garage, and a landscape around that, and the area has been cleared of vegetation. So at this point, just for what we know, we're a little bit unclear as to the wall that's on the road, if it's actually on this property or on town property, and that needs to be clarified. And I would recommend that we have the Steigers file an after-the-fact notice of intent for this work. But I'll leave that at there, and Mr. Steiger, if you're able, this is your chance to chat.
Okay. So obviously you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously there's a misunderstanding on my part. The retaining wall is in the exact same footprint as it was before. And nothing has changed relative to that. There's no vegetation because we wanted to plant grass. So, there was old steps and debris on the property. There wasn't really much vegetation anyway. So So that portion was cleared, and then the objective is to plant grass and bushes and such. I'm not sure what else to add.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let me ask the commissioners if they have any questions on this. The wetlands, Amy, just as a point of interest, what is it, an old bog, or?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, it's a freshwater, kind of swampy wetland at this point, but it was an old bog,
Yeah, okay,
right on the other side of the road.
okay. All right, good. Wayne, do you have any questions?
I do not, no.
All right, Alan?
No.
Jim?
No
John?
question.
So I was at, excuse me, I was out there today and there had been some cutting across the street from the driveway. Is that what the town was doing?
Yeah, it was mostly invasives, and there was a couple of hazard trees, kind of overhanging the road.
Okay.
So I did give the town, for safety reasons, permission to cut that back.
Mark, you have any questions?
Not at the moment.
I have no questions. I think that the explanations that you've given us, Amy, are pretty clear and concise. And it appears the work has been done without permits, without any attention to the location where they were being constructed. And your recommendation at this point is what?
So my recommendation, I mean, the walls are much larger in scale from what I recall and have record of. It was kind of like a lower timber but prior. And yeah, so my recommendation, Mr. Steiger, I think that this, even though it's within the 50-foot buffer, which is a no disturb zone, meaning no new structures, I think you probably would have gotten approval for this work with a variance request had you applied for it. So my recommendation, and I know you say it's in the same footprint, but we don't have, record necessarily of that. My recommendation is that you apply for said permit now after the fact, but you will need a site plan that shows that wall, and that way we can, whether it was the previous owners or whatnot who may have built the old wall, it's not so much an issue with conservation if you're on that part of the road, but certainly would have to be something that the Department of Public Works would have to be involved in if it happens to be, even if you did just replace what was there. Because now it's, you've rebuilt, so it's come to the attention of us that, we want to make sure that the wall is on your property. So my recommendation is for you to file an after-the-fact notice of intent for this work, and you can contact Melissa and I, and we can guide you on how to do that. But you will need a site plan that shows the existing structures that are on there. And then, as far as lawn, so if you get this permitted, any lawn area that's within the 100-foot buffer, which encompasses the front, at least the front and sides of your property, would need to just be a native Cape Cod grass seed mix, no turf or sod, no fertilizers, things like that. And we would require some mitigation for new structures, likely in the form of some shrub plantings, from our native plant list, which we're happy to provide you.
All right,
Okay, thank you very much, and the silk fence is up.
I saw that, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So with respect to the work that has been done, my understanding, based on all the comments that have been made so far, this was done without a permit. And that when we last reviewed this back in 2021, I think it was pretty clear at that point that any work to be done on the property would have to be approved and would have to have the proper permits. And can you just explain to us again why that wasn't done?
Well, I had done that I mean, I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, right? But, you know, I've had several conversations with, you know, an individual that's helping me do the construction of the work, and we had this discussion, and so my impression from those discussions was that we were all set. So, and that's why the work went ahead. So, again, you know, obviously it's my misunderstanding. I apologize. I wasn't trying to do something that wasn't there or change anything or in that respect.
All right, so essentially, I mean, our practice in these sorts of situations is to levy a fine for work that's done without a permit. And the fine is generally directed against whichever party it is that performed the work, either knowing that they didn't have permits or ignoring any of the need for permits. So you're telling me that it was not you that gave the instructions to do this work, but it was the contractor you had working for you, is that right?
No. It was involved in the decision-making to begin the work. But I spoke with my advisor, because we've had all the other permits to do work. And my general impression was, from the conversation, was that we were covered, right? So, but that is clearly not the case. So I am at fault.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's typically the owner that we hold responsible. And then if they want to take that up with whoever else, you know, then they could ask them to pay the fine, but we typically do fine the owner.
Owner or the contractor?
Or the contractor.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, but so he's
Right.
clarified that the contractor was not at fault here.
Yep.
So, any discussion with respect to a fine on this property from the commissioners? Any thoughts, feelings? John?
I think we should levy the fine. As far as Conservation Commission and the Conservation Department are concerned, clear instruction was given to the homeowner a year ago about what would need to be done. And for whatever reason, there's no point in us trying to second guess why the homeowner didn't follow those clear instructions, but I think the point has to be made and the fine needs to be levied. It's a $300 fine. I think it makes it clear that this is not the way to proceed. I don't think we should be just letting it pass, because then other people will think we'll just let it pass, and, you know, it's an issue for us. So I'm very much in favor of levying a $300 fine.
Okay, all right. Other comments?
I have one addition. Through the process of this preparation and documentation, I think it would be advisable to locate the bounds on the front of the lot to distinguish what's town property and what's not.
Yeah.
And there won't be an issue of where any work is going on.
Yeah, very definitely. Right. Well, he'll need to do that, I think. He still needs to obtain a building permit, is my understanding, Amy, is that right?
If the wall is higher at any point than 4 feet, you will need to. I didn't measure. The wall that's closest to the garage looks to be the higher wall. So any wall higher than 4 feet would need a building permit anyways. The rest of the work may not necessarily need one.
Okay. All right. Well, I agree with you, John, in your comments on that a fine is probably appropriate, given the fact that this was just a year ago that Mr. Tiger was before us, and we reviewed this project and outlined what the requirements were for it. So with that, you know, again, if there are no other comments on it, do we have a motion? Would you like to make a motion on that?
I will move to levy a fine of $300 for construction without a permit at 7 Laurie Lane.
All right. then I will second that, since I was in agreement. Amy?
I would recommend that you add that he file an after-the-fact notice of intent for the work within 90 days.
I'll accept that amendment to my motion.
And I'll second the amended motion. So with that, let me ask for a vote from the commissioners. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3, all opposed?
I'm gonna abstain. I'm gonna
I'll go
abstain.
aye.
4 in favor, Mark?
Boy, I'm torn about this. I'm gonna be opposed to this.
Okay, so we have 4 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention on this, so the motion carries.
No,
You
that's
get
not
4.
right.
You don't have 4.
You abstained?
3 in favor, 2 opposed,
1,
1
2, 3.
abstention.
Wayne is in favor as well.
Wayne?
Right,
So
3
it's
in
four,
favor.
Right?
4.
I thought you
No,
opposed it.
4.
No, I didn't oppose it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought you did. No.
4-1-1.
Sorry
Yes.
about that, Mr. Chairman.
So the motion carries.
All right.
All right, Mr. Steiger, thank you very much for coming tonight, and we'll look forward to hearing from you when you do the
All right,
notice of
thank
intent
you.
filing. Thank you.
We'll be in touch with you, Mr. Steiger, about the process, okay?
All right.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is minutes. We have 4 minutes. I saw one in the, 2?
There
I
should
saw
be
one
2.
in Dropbox for, this was for the, that remote meeting, I'm sorry, the meeting where we lost our power here. It was on May 4th.
Right, the remote meeting is in there too.
I
That's
don't
the only
have
one I
copies
saw.
with me.
Was there another one?
I don't have it in front of me, sorry.
I saw the remote meeting in there. I
Yeah.
read the thing.
Is that
so-
the only one?
That's the only one I
okay.
Oh, there were
see,
2.
yeah.
Okay,
There were
In
2.
my when I looked in Dropbox, there were draft June 28, 2022 minutes. That's the on-site meeting.
mhm.
Draft minutes for May 4th,
Oh,
which
I'm
is the
sorry.
one that was continued.
Yes, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't, I missed the on-site meeting minutes.
Well, we have time, if anybody needs to take a quick peek, we have time, so.
Um,
I don't have copies in front of me, so if there's edits, if somebody wouldn't mind making a change on their copy or online and sending them to me, that would be helpful.
Well, I have a question
Yeah.
about a sentence. But you don't have,
I can go print them off quickly, it's not a problem,
You want me to give you, do you have it online?
yeah. No, I usually have a paper copy, but thank you, I appreciate that.
so,
All right, so you're on July 20th? No, we're on June 28th, rather?
June 28th,
Yep,
page 2, which I assume is gonna be the same for your, and it's a paragraph, in the second half of page 2, that starts with Alan Hall asked
Yep.
what had, so, but the last sentence there is what, it's a long sentence, actually. Phyllis Thomason asked how it would be determined whether this project was helping with nitrogen attenuation, and Eric Ford explained that the studies that had been done had provided them with estimates for what this size
Oh.
project,
okay,
But- I haven't gotten to the part that,
that's confusing anyway, though.
for what this size project could help with, and that the restoration would help the town to not meet the total.
No, it should be to meet.
Right, okay. That was my point. That's what I thought it should mean.
Can you make that edit, John, on your copy?
I can,
Or at least note it and then send that to me?
I will, let's see,
I'll try to remember that, but still.
just, wait a minute, I gotta turn on track changes. They're not on.
Or can you not edit because it's,
I don't know, you can always override that, okay, so I'm gonna save this. I will email this,
thank you. But I do see where that is.
and I'm gonna put my initials in the document title, so you
All right.
can,
Cool.
you can distinguish it. Oh, no, hang on, I have to Okay, that was my only comment on
Okay.
either of the documents.
I had no changes on either. Other,
Easy.
anybody else have any comments? Can we have a motion on the minutes for May 4th and June 28th then?
I'll move to approve the minutes from May 4th and June 28th with the one striking the word "not"
Mm-hmm.
in a sentence as previously described.
Okay, thank you. And second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm gonna abstain because I haven't read
Abstain on the June 28th.
the May 4th one.
May 4th was the one you were not present for.
They have to.
Yeah, okay. All right. Good.
All right.
Anything else, Amy?
Nope, I told you about the, the open meeting law and then the one Cape, so I'll sign Wayne up.
Wait
for-
till the morning, I'll text you, 'cause I just remembered it's my sweetie pie's birthday, so I gotta check, see what the plans are.
I'm going to Oquasit without you.
Could very well be.
Oh, that'll go over good.
That one might not go over good.
Well, it's that Monday or Tuesday, so yeah,
Yeah.
let me know.
I'll
Tomorrow
text you
morning.
first thing in the morning.
I don't have anything else other than that. We have a lot of projects in the works right now,
Okay.
but no updates I can give you at this point.
And for the next meeting, what are we looking like, August 3rd?
So we'll have the two that we continued tonight, Anino and Coldbrook, and then we only got 2 new RDAs, so it's not bad.
Okay.
This is kind of, we always have a big lead up to summer,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start, like right around now, you start to get a slight lull, and then when everybody leaves in September, they decide they wanna do the work, so then there's a new rush usually of applications, so. We're trying to, today was Jody, our AmeriCorps member's last day with us.
Oh, that's right, too.
Yep, graduation is next week, and we had a little send-off today.
She was terrific.
She was the best,
Couple interactions I had with her.
the best that we've ever had, I will say.
Now, do you do letter of recommendations for her?
I told her today, I said, whatever you want.
Wonderful, good.
I'm still, actually, I'm meeting with the one I had 6 years ago is in town right now from Texas. And him and his fiance, who was also in the program, I'm having dinner with them tomorrow night. And I've been his reference for, he's doing big things with federal fish and game right now.
Hmm,
good.
So
Where's Jody off to?
Jody's gonna do another year in the program. Jody's not, says she loves it so much, she's not done with Cape Cod yet, and, but she's not gonna, she wants to go to the Upper Cape House in Bourne to get a different experience,
Mm,
so,
good, terrific,
yeah. So, it's been an awesome 10 months.
wonderful. Good, anything
Oh,
else? What?
we put the reef out today.
Oh,
The
really?
reef went out today.
Oh,
It's been every, the timing has been all over the place because of weather and contractor, where they're gonna be, Yarmouth or Harwich. So we got word yesterday that they had time today, weather permitting, to deploy the reef. So they did that first thing this morning.
Who did it?
Robert Hour Company won the contract. So,
Was that the entire product that was being stored in New Bedford? Is that what's going on?
yep, we only ended up, there was less than they thought there was. They thought there was an acre of material, there was less. So, we got it for free, it was all grant funded, so I didn't really have much of a say in it. We only got 1 barge load out of the 4 barges. But that's what we put out last time too, with 1 big barge load. So, we did get video and I'll send it to you.
Good.
And, so yeah, our reef has doubled in size overnight.
Good.
Oh, terrific. Hope the fish are happy. Good.
They made a joke, I was like, you gonna get in the water and dive to make sure it doesn't hit the fish? And they get in there with the sharks in the water.
There aren't sharks in Nantucket Sound, are there?
Wink, wink.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, we're building a reef though.
All the food sources there.
Little candy store for them.
No, they don't like those little fish, they
No,
want the
I
big,
know.
they want the
They want
seals,
seals and,
larger things.
yes, 2-legged seals.
All right.
That's all I have for you,
I got a
so-
couple things, Ronnie.
Yes, Mark.
Any communication further with tech school regarding Main Street?
Yep, we're still trying to work with council about the hiccup with the way that it was funded. But they're still interested, we're still interested.
Can you fill us in on that again, please? The funding issue?
The way that the town acquired the property with self-help funds basically said that only what's out there, right, the structures that are out there right now are kind of grandfathered, so new structures such as classrooms or caretaker's cottage. But the way the project was funded, the state self-help wouldn't support that. So it could be a
It doesn't
change in
prohibit them, but
legislation.
it doesn't prohibit the structures, just impacts the funding of the new structures. Is that
No,
right?
No, it impacts the
Usage of the property, right?
usage of the property,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
yes.
Amy, if I could just
Please.
expand on that a little bit, because I took a look. The deed that the town got references a section in the legislation that actually voted the money that was used for the purchase of the property. If you took a look at that section in the legislation, it put on restrictions as to what the funds could be used for and what the property acquired could be used for. That restriction doesn't really allow the tech school to do all the things that they were talking about. Now, in order to deal with that restriction, it's my opinion anyway, that you would have to go back to the legislature and get a special bill through the legislature, which is done on a fairly regular basis, so it's not something that's impossible. But it would be something that would take a little bit of time and not be able to be done by the tech school's, timetable of getting something started this fall.
So does this basically put a stake in the heart of this whole project?
Well, it depends. It certainly slows it down. Now, the issue is whether there's a desire to go back to the legislature and try to get a special bill passed, which would allow the tech school to do what it wants to do on the property
And
in light of the legislation.
who would have to take the initiative on that? Would it be the selectmen, or would it be the tech school?
It could be either the tech school or the town,
I
since the
think it
property.
should be both. to
It
show
probably
joint
should be
effort.
done jointly,
Yeah.
and what they should really do is jointly approach either our state representative or our state senator to get a bill introduced in the legislature. These sort of small bills, as long as there's no opposition to them, it's my experience, go through pretty quickly. But the problem that we're facing is we're getting near the end of this legislative session. It's not going to get in this legislative session, so it would have to be introduced in the next legislative session, which would start in the fall, and could pass relatively quickly if there's pressure to pass it.
I'm willing to help on behalf of the town. The tech was a little unsure about whether they wanted to do that. But I'll talk again with the superintendent and say that if the commission and the town are wanting to do that, we'll do what we can.
So where does that leave us with the existing lease?
Well, it still expires in November, right?
November.
Right.
Well, it seems to me that given all of these details, wouldn't it be appropriate to put out an RFP on the property and develop other opportunities while this is in the process of doing whatever it is? It doesn't mean anybody has to say yay or nay, or agree to legislation, or agree to a proposal, but at least exercise the options and see what else would be available, because the clock never stops.
Mark, in my opinion, it would be better to make a determination whether or not either the town or the tech school or both want to go for the legislation, because if we were to put out an RFP now, we would have to put it out with the restrictions that are in the current legislation that, that
It would affect
funded
anybody.
the purchase. So it would be, it would restrict what we could put out in an RFP today. So I think there needs to be a determination by the town and by the tech school whether they wanted to try to go the legislative route before we take any other action.
I think regardless if it's the tech or any other lessee or, municipal agreement that we enter into, it would be the interest of the town to change the legislation, because if anybody wanted to change anything out there from what current practices are, you basically grandfather for what you have. But a lot of people aren't gonna wanna do things exactly the same way.
Right.
So, we should go for it.
Yeah, Amy, one of the problems I see with legislation is it's going to be hard to pass legislation to generally remove the restrictions.
I understand.
What is going to be easier is to have a proposal, whether it's a tech school proposal or some other proposal,
Okay.
that then the legislation would allow
Yeah.
what that proposal is, proposing to do with the property.
Why don't I put this on for further discussion at the next meeting, and I'll try to
Okay.
have even more information from you, from
Okay.
them. And talk again with the tech to see how they're feeling.
Right.
Yeah, Alan?
Maybe we should set a date for the tech school to get back to you, to tell you if they're gonna do it or not. Then that will tell us which way we're gonna go. Because somebody could use that property the way it is now, as a cranberry bog with a Quonset hut there and exactly what's there, correct? As existing.
As existing.
Okay, all right, so that's cool. So we just need to know if the tech school's still interested in doing all that legwork with the town.
Well, I'll have an update for them at the,
Right.
let's get an update from the tech at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Because it's up, the ball's in their court right now to say if they want to fight the fight or whatever they want to do.
Yeah. So is all interested parties are aware of what the issues are? All right.
The last time I had a meeting with the tech and the attorneys, the first thing I did was send an email to administration and the selectmen with what we found out.
Okay.
So, it seems to
Unfortunate.
me like there's a real possibility that we'll get to the lease termination date and there will not be resolution. So my question is, does anybody know whether the current leaseholder is interested in another year's extension?
I don't know why we'd wanna give him another year. He's already had 365 days to clean that mess up. He hasn't done it. He
So-
needs to do it.
So if we what you're saying is if we get to the end of the lease period and there's no clear path forward yet, that you're thinking the lease should expire, all the requirements that the current leaseholder has to fulfill need to be done, and then
Start over again.
we're gonna
Either with
start from
tax
the
school or
beginning.
somebody else.
Yeah, I mean,
Alright.
you still have agricultural exemptions out there for
So they're
another
not-
5 years.
Okay.
I
You
think-
obviously don't wanna let, a lot of the property, some of the bogs have gone almost pretty fallow out there. There's some that are fairly workable still, but it's not like you're taking a pristine bog and letting it go fallow out there.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a pristine boat.
20 years ago.
I know,
think,
what,
when
I
he got
meant
it, it
now,
was.
I meant now.
Well, I'm just saying it was.
Yeah, but I've, at all the discussions that we've had about 374 Main in the past few months, we have notified the current lessee, and they haven't
Yeah,
shown.
right. Okay.
I would, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
I would
no.
recommend that we have a cutoff date for the tech school to let us know if they're gonna go or not. And then that way all that other stuff's put to bed and we can move on in another direction. That would be my feeling. I don't wanna just keep going and going and going and going.
Well, what's,
We can't really vote on anything like that tonight because it's not an agenda item.
I'm not asking the
Yeah.
vote, I'm asking just a suggestion that
Sure.
we should have a clarity of a date, a drop dead date of the tech school, either gonna, now with all this new information, is it worth their interest or not? And then we'll know.
in order to set that date, though, it would seem we need to have a timeline of when all these things have to happen, so we can fit that into that timeline.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think the only date that we could set would be a determination by the town and the tech school as to whether or not they want to go for the legislative solution.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because once, if they determine, if the town and the tech school go for the legislative determination, then the process starts of going, but then the timeline is at the will of the legislature. And
Right.
again, like I said, if there's enough pressure and there's no opposition, these things can go through relatively fast, but you don't know. This is also an election year. So you don't know, so once it gets into the legislature, the timeline is going to be determined by the legislature, and we're really not gonna have anything to say about it.
But there's a separate timeline leading up to that point that
Correct.
we can govern.
Yeah, we can govern the decision as to whether or not the town and the tech school wanna go the legislative route.
And also do the outreach to our legislator
Right,
and get him on board with it.
right.
Or her.
So all that, we can put a timeline on that
Yes,
aspect of it.
yeah. All right.
Before our next meeting, I'll try to set up a meeting with myself, our town administrator, the superintendent, and probably the chairman of the board of selectmen to have a sit down, and then
All right,
all right?
good. And then from that, Alan, we can set
Yeah,
a deadline
that's
for the
fair,
tech. Yeah,
That's fair for everybody, I think.
All right.
yeah. All
I'll
right,
try to set that up based on their schedules before our next meeting, so we have an update for you.
all right, good. Thank you for bringing that up, Mark. You have something else?
Yep. Thompson's Field. I've heard a lot of conversation from different people, different times regarding the leash law
Yeah.
and dogs and so forth. Understand very clearly, I'm an avid dog person. And there's been cases where there's been people that have gotten hurt on town property because the leash law wasn't obeyed. I think it would be prudent for us to provide substantial signage stating the leash law at various locations. What people choose to do or not is another story, but I feel it's our obligation to provide that information to the public.
I agree, I
So
went
it's
on
voice
that
control.
pollinator walk, and,
It's voice control only. We don't have a hard leash law.
Really?
The law in the town of Harwich, which includes Thompson's Field, is that the dog has to be under your voice control, and of course, we know that means different things to different people. We do not have a hard leash law. We battled
So-
this several, 5, 6, 7 years ago, where we tried to have either on leash only at Thompson's Field because we had had a couple of incidences between dog and dog or dog and person. And we had a huge meeting with over 100 people in attendance over at the community center. And things got better for a little while. Basically, the commission wanted maybe to have one, because the way we purchased that land was also with self-help funds, like we're talking about for 374 Main Street. The condition in which we purchased that land, in our grant application for self-help funds, we said dogs have to be on leash as per the town of Harwich regulations. Well, those town of Harwich regulations never really were that all dogs had to be on leash. So, because that land was supposed to be for the purposes of water quality protection and wildlife. And there's big impact, and I'm a dog lover too, you all know it. A big impact on wildlife because of the number of animals that are being brought to be exercised at Thompson's Field. Technically, the way we're using that property is not in line with the self-help funding.
Okay, so then what's the way, how do we correct it?
Well,
As I see it, there's infringement on people's safety. And
and
I feel the responsibility
The-
to address it.
right, the big question that came as a result of that meeting, because I brought this up back then, was, well, so we have a hard leash law, who's gonna enforce it? It's not enforceable. Our
Well, but if
animal
you have
control officer is does as good as she can, she's great.
Mhm.
But who would enforce it if we did have it? It's really, it would be a 40-hour-a-week job down there.
But it provides some protection
I
to the
know.
town
Yes,
when there is an incident. If you have the
I
law
understand.
and the person doesn't have a dog on a leash,
Yep.
then they're liable.
they'll have.
It's posted, right?
Somebody's
Yeah,
gotta be
so, I
responsible.
mean, there's a whole gap between, under your voice control that you
I
can never enforce.
completely
But you
understand.
can enforce a leash law.
So it can be something the commission can take up again if they want to. You have the power to change the laws in Thompson's Field. It's not the town, it is under your care and custody. So your lands, you have the ability to make stronger regulations than the town does. We would have to have public meetings about it, which is fine, that is your purview. What we had considered back in the day was kind of a medium, try a middle ground, was that half of the field, say north of the bike trail, would be off leash, and south would be on leash only. That way it would give people who didn't wanna walk there, at least some area. That was, screamed about. We talked about even putting a dog park, an actual fenced-in, large, like 2-acre dog park there. And that didn't fly either. The masses came out, and the commission at the time decided not to take it any farther. They directed people, like, we tried to police it better. A lot of self-policing happened. It's better than it used to be, but it's still not good. But yeah, a lot of people don't go there because they don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And there is an impact to habitat out there as a result of this.
Yeah.
So, short of changing, it would be regulations, right? It would be regulatory change. Short of doing that, is there any reason why the Conservation Commission cannot post prominent signs saying in the strongest possible language, without implying that it's a law, that please keep your dogs on leash? I mean, it doesn't solve the problem, but at least starts addressing it.
I hate,
Well, but, and
yeah,
I
but-
have just an associated question, and
just push the button on the side of it and it'll stop. I don't have any idea why it does that.
I don't know what side button we're talking about. Sorry, Ernie.
do you think that putting some kind of signage like that up would be within the CPC funding guidelines? And so that could be funded by existing
Yeah, I was
funds?
already thinking that. So minimal funding, it wouldn't be much.
So I don't know.
So I don't have the
if
money
that
in my actual
addresses
budget,
your-
but a couple hundred
Your
in.
concerns, I mean, we could still put signage up, even if there is no leash law, we could
But
tell
the
people.
signage has no,
Power.
yeah, no power. There's nothing to
Lights
back it
are
up.
If it's not wetlands.
You know, I hate to
Yeah,
put
yeah.
up signs that cry wolf, that where you can't enforce it.
I did the pollinator tour up there
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, and I noticed dogs running all over the place up there, off leash.
Yeah.
And a few of them are huge dogs, they were big. I don't know what breed they were, but they were gigantic.
The Leonbergers,
Something like that, I don't know what the heck they were.
Clydesdales.
Yeah,
Where you
at
can
the
put a
big-
saddle on them, ride them
No,
around.
I guarantee you it was the Leonbergers. We had to
And the s-
stop them. They were taking all 7 out at once. We had to say.
Well, I
you
think it's a
can't
good point that Mark brings up, because it
Yeah.
is, with all, everybody using these properties, I mean, you gotta have a little common sense.
And there is a liability for the
Yes,
town.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, the other issue too, I mean, Conservation Trust in particular, that's a private association. That's,
They're on leash only.
okay, and that's their choice.
Yep.
Right? So obviously, they've taken into consideration the safety factor, and I feel that we should be doing the same thing.
I agree with you, Mary.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, the same issues in Bell's Neck too.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I was down there the
All
other day
over
with my
land.
2 dogs, and some lady comes out of, I was on the road, and she comes out of a side trail, 4 dogs, 1 lady, none of them were on a leash. And, I mean, it scared the bejesus out of me. I don't care what she was thinking, but I was the one that had 2 little tiny dogs with 4 dogs looking at them.
Right.
You know, it's just not right. I don't care what she thinks and whether she has them under control or not. It's still not right for the people that,
Yeah.
Well,
Other people that are
at
out
the end
there.
of the day, animals still act on impulse
that's right.
and instinct, and tragedies happen.
Yeah.
So,
So what,
We would need, whatever we do, not just, I mean, signage, we can probably do some improved signage of some sort, but like we recommend dogs, if you your dog is not under, and here's what voice control actually means, like, you call your dog comes. First time, not 10th time, not when it wants to,
Not my dog.
it comes.
Who polices
My dog,
that?
well, that's why no, they don't, but if you wanna make any changes to regulations, you really need, I mean, it's a different animal control officer right now. We really need support from the police department to help enforce it, otherwise it's a joke.
But it also requires public hearing?
Yes, to change a rule in a town land,
Yep,
as it is a community land, it will require a public hearing.
yep. And we'll have
Not
a
we've-
ton of opposition to it, I'm sure, but
Yep,
we'll have
is
to
what-
go
I mean-
into it recognizing that that's the environment we'll be in.
what they'll ask you is
You might have
prove
a lot of
it,
people in
prove it,
favor
that
of
there's
it.
been, that
Do what?
there's been issues,
You
prove
may
it,
have a lot of
that
people,
there's.
oh, sorry.
Oh, it's
sorry.
provable.
They want documentation, that's what they asked, but prior, like documentation of incidences, how much, what's the town-wide average of incidences for dogs out in Thompson's Field versus not in Thompson's Field. They'll want, so that's what the public will cry about, they'll
Mhm.
say you can't, there's no proof.
However, you may have the opposition of people wanting the leash law. You may have a lot of people here saying yes.
There was very few who came out, and they will, but they get really bashed by the others. So there's a lot of people who are afraid to talk.
Yeah,
Um,
Well, I think you should bring it to the table. I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea.
I do
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't like the idea of telling somebody that they have to contain their dog. I would just as soon let them all run free, but that,
But if you're gonna do it for Thompson's Field, here's a recommendation, is that you consider it for our other areas
It
too.
should be
Because you're
townwide.
going to push,
I
it should be
fully agree.
townwide. So if you can, I'm happy to have the animal control officer come and chit chat with you folks sometime.
Yeah.
But
Good
my
idea.
issue is if you say Thompson's Field, nothing, you're gonna move the problem to the, even
Right.
worse, to the Bell's Neck,
Yeah, it would have to be the
to
townwide.
anywhere else. It,
Yep.
yeah.
But we can't just impose a townwide
We
leash
could do
law,
it on
right?
our lands,
Only on,
on all
Yeah,
the
that-
lands that we
That's true,
control.
yeah.
yeah.
Unless the town was interested in going townwide. I mean, I don't know how Jen Harrington feels about that or not, but,
If the
Well, we don't-
conservation trust has it,
Yeah.
why shouldn't we?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
They
good.
pretty much mirror each other and all these other things in conservation land, so.
Yeah.
Right. They're not too worried about feedback or.
Right.
No, the reason they don't have issues with the law on their lands is because all the people who don't wanna have their dog on a leash know they can come to our lands.
There you go.
So, it's the truth. They're like, oh, we don't mind that we can't, we have to be on a leash at Coys Brook because we can just go over to Bell's Neck and let them run.
Yeah,
But if everybody, yeah.
okay.
well, I
I'm
think,
happy to, we can put that back on our radar.
I think that's a good idea, and I think it's a good opportunity to ask animal control to come in and have a conversation and get some feedback as well.
Yeah,
'Cause to me, it seems like it's an important issue, and like I say, there's been more than one case where somebody's gotten hurt, and,
and is the animal control would have a record of those
The
incidents?
police department would have any documented cases. A lot of cases are hearsay,
Sure.
basically, you know.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't want to get targeted as,
Yeah.
saying, you know, anything against Thompson's Field or anything against our areas. A lot of people are afraid of speaking up.
Yeah, all right.
But yes,
Doesn't
we could
include
go
us.
back, I haven't checked the
Doesn't
records in
include
the
us.
past few years,
Right.
so we could always ask for the records, and Jen Harrington is there all the time over at Thompson's, she does her best, so,
She's animal control?
yeah,
and she's one person, I mean, she can't be everywhere.
no,
You know,
but she'll know the incidences if,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So if we have light, couple of agendas coming at us for the rest of the summer, then we can get her in next meeting or the meeting after that.
Probably not next, cause we'll have the dock and Cold Brook, and we'll have
Yeah.
374 Main hopefully, but soon.
All right, okay.
I had a little situation down at Shaw's the other day. I went to walk in Shaw's and this guy, the young guy, walking out with a Great Dane out of the store on a leash. But he did have a leash on him.
Okay.
But it was not a service dog because he didn't have the proper identification
Right,
on
you
it.
have to have identification.
And they let him in?
Yeah, they did because he was coming out of the store. So I did have a conversation with the Board of Health the other day.
I
just-
said that's against,
Yeah,
can't have a
yeah. no.
non-service animal.
Especially
in
the
a-
one that size, my God, a Great Dane is a damn thing.
Yeah.
Only service that dog was provided would be transportation, put a saddle on him.
I used to have two growing up.
Jesus.
And I used to have two growing up.
Did you, really?
And when I was a baby, I could ride them.
I'll bet you.
And they liked it.
I'm sure they did.
Clean up on aisle 4 with it pretty
Oh,
bad too.
his tail was wagging like that.
They're huge.
But what the hell, coming out of a grocery store with a Great Dane, good lord.
Anything else, Mark?
Unsanitary.
I'm out of ideas.
Let's go
Damn.
home.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
I have one
Okay.
question
Oh,
for you,
sorry.
Amy. Herring River RFP.
Yes, thank you.
Gotta get that
Gotta
moving.
get that group, okay.
We've lost months now.
Okay.
And update on Lothrop, I know we can't do it this meeting, I don't think, but,
Can't do it now.
yeah. So, I'd like to know where that is. That's another one that's just,
Well, I can tell you that the owner has, this week, just the other day, asked me to have a neutral ground chat with him. And I said, no.
no, we're not,
Because
we're
all
beyond
these
that.
chats since 2015 that we've tried have not come to fruition,
It's been that long, since 15?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's get that.
No, we are, the ruling of the court, and he's appealed it, it's his last appeal, is that he has to return the property to what it was.
Right, so why is nothing happening? Again.
He has appealed that, he has his last right to appeal, and that's in process now.
All right,
He's already lost a few times.
so we need to wait for that to run its course then. All right.
I didn't hear all of that. Where is it?
I
Which one?
can't,
Lothrop, the property behind the church.
Yep, yep, okay.
All right, I think we've exhausted it, and it's not 8 o'clock yet, so.
We done good.
Can we have a motion, please, to adjourn?
Adjourn.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
2 signatures, please.
Jim.
And Lee.